is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, everybody. Welcome to episode number 243 of Sports Cards Live. It's Saturday night, October the 19th, 2024. My name is Jeremy Lee. I would like to remind everybody that tomorrow night on the channel, the Fanatics Collect weekly hockey auction with Josh Madigan of The Gong Show will come at you live from right here. It's going to be fun. The next day, Monday, is MC Monday's Showcase Live, a fun, action-packed episode. And Tuesday is another episode of the Fund Your Cards show with a correspondent coming to us from Asia. I would like to thank all sponsors and partners, including Filth Bomb Breaks, including Fund Your Cards, including Mint Inc. I'd like to ask you to check out hobbynewsdaily.com for your daily dose of hobby news and articles and various great content on there. Leighton, Sheldon of Just Collect will join us a little bit later. And the next episode of our podcast, which is a spin-off of this one, which is called the Vintage Spotlight. We are recording that on Tuesday. It should drop next Tuesday or Wednesday. I'd also like to shout out and thank the Van City Card Show. Had a great time last weekend, and congratulations to them on a big success for their inaugural event. And I also want to congratulate Eric and Aaron on their 100th episode of the Center Ice Cardcast that they streamed live today on their YouTube channel. It's 100 episodes, but those guys have been going for a lot longer than I've been going here. So they're going on probably 7 or 8 years of podcasting. And as a reminder, this podcast, this show is available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Please like, subscribe, leave a review, all of those things. And as always, I'd like to thank our loyal viewers and listeners. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, please take a moment and do so. As always, your comments and your questions are in play. We don't have one specific guest tonight, but I'm looking at 5 guys in the background right now. All but one was here pre-live. So Will, I see you there. Welcome to the show. We'll get you guys all on here just momentarily. And welcome everybody in the chat. All right. I'm just going to bring everybody out. Yeah, I'm going to bring you all out, and we're just going to jump in and start the chat. Will, why isn't Will's camera working? We'll let Will, I'm going to wait for you to give me a thumbs up. In the meantime, I want to introduce Stamatis. We know him as Ralph Wraparound Cards. We've got Matt, B3 Sports Cards. We have Eitan, Le Cartel, the Sports Card Cartel, and Mitch Grotman joining us tonight. And let's see if Will is available yet. Will, maybe leave and come back. There he is, Will. Welcome to the show, Will. How are you? Okay. A little bit slow on the internet there from Will's place, so we'll let that work itself out. Feel free to leave and come back, Will. That might help. In the meantime, though, we are going to let me just set the table here, guys. Obviously, if you're here, you either know, maybe you don't know, maybe you don't follow me on Instagram and you're not sure what this is about. But we, the hobby, we lost a great hobbyist in September, Jon Goralewski, somebody who a lot of us knew through Instagram, through chats. Was seeing him at the Expo and perhaps other card shows, and he passed away to cancer in September, leaving behind his wife, his 2 kids, and the extended family. So our heart goes out to them, of course. And I think, the reason for doing this here tonight is really to, I think it's important for people to understand, like people who are the family of hobbyists, to understand that it's not just the cards, it's not just the cards. There are relationships here. There is a community. And my hope is that Jon's family can watch this and see just how many people he impacted and just how we all felt about him and what we thought of him. And that's why I want to invite all these guys on here. I want to thank Eitan Le Cartel for sparking this idea in my mind in a late night conversation we were having about a week ago or so. So he actually, Eitan, again, Le Cartel, he had an idea for something that we could do at the Expo to recognize and remember Jon, and it evolved into, well, why don't we do a commemoration sort of episode and just share some stories and all that. So I want to thank you, Eitan, for that. And before we get into it, I'm going to just say hello to the people we do have in the chat, people on Instagram. Welcome. Please feel free to come on over to YouTube if you'd like. It's much easier for me to see your comments there. But we do have Hobby Champs is with us. What is up? Yitz is here. Laura, welcome to the show. Joe Perot, good to see you, my friend. Tomcat Sports Cards, everybody. That is Matt. Matt, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Jeff McMahon, good to see you. Thank you for the welcome back. I have been absent for about 2 weeks. Matt, what does Matt say? I want to take the opportunity to pay tribute to our good friend Ian Cope, Epoch Collects, who we also lost recently. If anyone else out there does want to shout out anyone else who we've lost in the hobby, please put it in the chat. I'd love to be able to do that for them and their families, and really for us as a community. Robert Scott, good evening. Glad to be back. Matthew says the community is the best part of collecting. Cannot imagine what the experience would be without guys like all of you. Appreciate that, Matthew. Craig's Cards, good evening. Brett Miles, good evening. Philly Joe, good to see you. Reed, good to see you. C. Eddie B, first time live in a while. Glad you're here. And thank you, Reed. Okay. We did introductions. Will, you're back. You seem to be well connected. Everything going good for you? Well, we can't hear you. There's something wrong with your mic. So we'll ask you to tinker with that. And yeah, that's okay. Tinker with that. Hello to Yankees fan as well. All right, guys, listen, I mean, I have all my Yager cards sitting right here. I put them out. They're all on stands, and I was sort of getting inspired for this. And as I was going through them, you know, a couple of them stuck out to me as ones where I had interactions with John regarding them. Oh, and I also want to let you guys know on the ticker, on the ticker right down below, I did go and grab the GoFundMe link for John's, I think for an education fund for his family, for his kids. So if anyone is so inclined to go utilize that, it's there for you to go do. But obviously no pressure from us. If you knew him and you want to contribute, I think that'd be very nice. All right, let's start going around the horn here, guys. And we'll just sort of ask you for, I don't know, show a card that reminds you of John, or tell a story. I've got some DMs that I went through my DMs with him, and I've got a few stories, but we'll go around the horn. Ralph, Stamatis, the man of many names. Why don't we start with you? What comes to mind for you when you think about knowing John in our hobby?
Well, it was funny. The first time I actually met him at Expo, I met his brother first, and he saw one of my Yager tribute cards in the display, and he instantly reached out to John. And the next day, he came by the booth, and we were chatting back and forth. We didn't make anything happen with that card, but he looked on my page and he saw this card. I don't know if you can see it too well.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit you can angle it up and down if you want to try and get rid of that glare, but that's a nice card. Keep telling the story.
Yeah, so the specific card, like he really loved that card, and like for many years he keep on bumping me to try and make something happen, and we almost actually had something almost finalized for this expo, and then it was just ironic that this the sad news happened, right? And when I was speaking with Matt, and I was telling him how, like, I was because I see him every expo. He always comes by the booth, and we always go back and forth. And the stories that like John could tell, they're so well spoken, and like he brings you to whatever he's trying to tell you, and you can just be there in that presence. And it was really nice with John to give you that like assurance that he's a really good friend too, right?
Yeah, it's always nice to know that again, it's more than just the cards, right? The cards connect us, but the friendships, I think, help the relationships endure. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear. These stories about just seeing him at the show, because I don't know about you guys, but like it could be any of us at any time, right? And I think we all kind of question and consider our own mortality when something like this happens to a man of 45 years old. We all do. I have to assume we all do. I know I do. So it's always nice to know that we are spending all this time in this hobby on this cardboard, yet we are still building relationships, friendships, community, support, all these things. Matt, let's go to you. B3 Sports Cards. I love your account on Instagram. Great collection. I love the Yager jersey. We see it over his left shoulder on the right of the screen, everybody, if you can see that. So fitting. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Jon.
Yeah, so I met Jon, or at least virtually met Jon. Right after I got that jersey, I had posted a stick. It was a painted stick that I got signed by Yager, and I posted it on Instagram, and Yager actually reposted it. And Jon reached out to me saying he was at the show. We were both passionate Yager collectors. We got to chatting on Instagram over time. I mean, over the last couple of years, there was just honestly probably hundreds, if not thousands of conversations. Instagram turned to WhatsApp turned to the occasional phone call if we needed to get deeper on a, particular topic. And, we also sort of bonded because, similar with Stammer, right? We married, young kids, right? We had that family thing going on, but we were also sort of these, very passionate Yager guys. We didn't really collect anything but Yager, so we had a lot to talk about, especially, the Yager community. It's not that big, and a lot of us all sort of go for the same card. So when something comes up, we would always talk and, how do you get this? Or do you know this connection there? But he was a great guy, passionate, nice, kind, honest. I'd actually reached out to his wife after I heard his passing, and I said, we got to the point where, because he was in Canada, and I did use Stammer for this at times, and I also used Jon, where if there was a deal, because I'm in the US, that somebody wouldn't take US dollars or needed to take ETF, right? I'd go to Stammer, I'd go to Jon, and he would lay out that money on my behalf. And I would do the same for Jon in the States. I did a couple deals, and, I would get the cards in, then I would just ship them up to Canada. So like, it was that much of a trust, of thousands of dollars, and stuff that we would do there. I'll tell you, so I did probably somewhere between like 6 and 10 trades with Jon, because we would sometimes almost trade just for the sake of trading, because we were Yager collectors. And if we were bored, it was just sort of like, hey, let's figure out something. So I wanted to share one trade that we did, because to me, it was sort of one of the biggest and most memorable trades that I've made in the hobby. And it actually turned out to be a 9-for-1. In a trade here. So the card that I gave Jon was the Yager Run for the Cup, which is obviously a grail amongst many people. And I finally had gotten one. Porco Sports Cards was nice enough to contact me when he was ready to move his. I acquired the card, and Jon really wanted. And I ultimately believe that, part of this hobby is you got to pay things forward and just keep things moving, right? Even as Yager collector, Jon was like, I need that card. So I said, fine. What are you going to give me for it? But I'll give it to you on the table. So we ended up making a deal 9-for-1, and I got the cards here. All that I got in return, and I'll show them to you guys one by one here. So this was the Run for the Cup card, and this was a deal that so we got the superpowers, which is not overly common, but I traded mine to another hobbyist, so I needed to get that. We got the Yager Collective Choice Reserve number to 100. We got a Black Diamond numbered to 50 here. The Centurion's Topps Finest Refractor numbered to 75, another real, hard card to get a hold of. Black Diamond Gold out of 10. And the Donruss Priority out of 100. And then some of the 3 bigger ones was the SPX Force Auto with number to 100, the Duo SPX Duo View Auto, and then we were getting close, and Jon was also throwing in some financial dollars. And I know it seems like a lopsided trade, honestly, it sort of was, but he wanted to Run for the Cup, and he kept offering. And he then showed me a card that I'd never seen before. It's the only one I've seen, and and he threw it out there, and I said, I want that card part of the deal. And he said, I won't do it. And I said, well, are you going to ready to lose your card over? And he said, absolutely not. And he immediately threw it in. But if you could see it here, it is a shadow box auto buyback, number to 3. And it is a super, super cool card. So we did this trade, and the best part about Jon is that Jon always has things in his back pocket. And I swear within 6 weeks, with the exception of the shadow box, he re-owned every single card that he traded me within 6 weeks. And I couldn't believe how he did that. And it was amazing. And I messaged him about that a lot. And guy was like a magician. He would just pull things out of thin air. Like, he moved all these cards, and 6 weeks later, everything's returned. It's like the deal never happened. So fun little story there. And I'm happy to share more stuff later on.
It's nice to have a trade like that to remember. And great cards, by the way. The run for the cup that he got, that I think is commonly accepted to be like a top 3, if not better, 90s Grail, the out of 100. So that is a big card. You mentioned Porco. It's funny, when Frank sold off that set, he sold off the Yager, I think the Sakic and the Forsberg, and then I came in and bought like all the rest except for 2. And I was like, oh, I really wanted the Yager, the Sakic, and the Forsberg, but he did a good thing and made sure they went to more player collector. So that was great. Love the Centurions refractor. I picked up the Paul Correa just last weekend at the Van City Card Show from Coach Co. Bought it from him. Those are really cool cards. All right, well, thanks for sharing, Matt. Before we go on to Mitch and then Eitan, I know you've got some other things to maybe get to. So just send me a private message in our private message if you need to jump on ahead of Mitch at all here. But yeah, man, cards, good to see you. Glad you are joining. Doug Poole says about Jon, one of the best and most passionate Yager PC collectors I've ever met. Gonna miss our show and tells during our chats. Your friend, Russian Rocket Collector 10. Doug, good to see you. Appreciate you putting that in there. Blake Curran says, Jon and I talked often. We bonded over Yager. When I needed to move my 90s collection, he was the first person I reached out to because I knew he would appreciate them the most. I will miss him. Blake, thank you for commenting and sharing that. And maybe that speaks a little bit to what Matt was just saying. Maybe that's where Jon got some of these cards in his back pocket. Matt, was from people like Blake that helped move the collection. All right, Mitch, let's go to you. I know you posted on Instagram as soon as you had heard about Jon's passing, and I think that's how I found out about it the first time, was from one of your posts. So why don't you let us know a little bit about your relationship with Jon and what sticks out to you?
Yeah, so I met Jon a couple of years ago at an expo, and I had a couple of Yager cards available, and he scooped all of them from me. And I actually only have one Yager card even left in my collection, because anytime I would get one, it would just end up going to him. But I mean, Jon, in a way that I find extremely rare, was a guy where, like, when you met him and you started talking to him, you felt good. Like, he was just such a pleasant person to talk to. Like every expo, up until now, he would come up to the booth, and like my whole mood just got better once he was there. Like, he was really the true definition of a passionate collector who also really cared about people. I know since this happened, I've heard tons of stories, where he would, if someone wanted a card of his, even if it was in his PC, he would just give it to them. Like, he was literally that kind of guy. My friend Kelvin, who couldn't make it on here, he shared in a group chat a handwritten letter with a card that Jon gave him for free because he needed it. And, it was just like, hey, he like wrote some joke, and then he said, here's that card you wanted, no charge this time, pay it forward, go for something else, Jon. And when the news broke that he had passed away, it honestly, even though, he was someone I really liked and someone I had really positive interactions with, it still really surprised me, the reaction I had to it. I was like, honestly really broken up for even like right now thinking about it. Like I'm breaking up a little bit because it's so horrible. Like thinking about his family, and it's honestly very difficult for me. And I did want to share one of the last things that he said to me because I think it's very poignant, and I think it's a lesson that we all could benefit from. If I can share this.
Yeah, if you go through, I should see something that will come up once you go through that process. While you're doing that, Joe Perot, I love this comment from Joe. He says, "Well, it may sound corny, and I don't think it does, Joe. I feel like my collector friends know me in a way that even lifelong friends don't quite get." And I get that. I get that because what us six, everyone watching, listening, John, what we all have and had in common was this love for collecting. I don't know if it's a love. Do we love cardboard with pictures of hockey players, another sport? Do we love baseball players? Do we love pieces of cardboard with pictures of athletes on them? Or do we love collecting? Do we love acquiring? Do we love sorting? That's a whole other conversation, but it's interesting to me always. And I don't think it's corny what Joe says here. I think it's true for a lot of us because we know each other like our non-hobby friends just don't, because we don't have that shared collector's gene, I guess. So, okay, Mitch, I'm going to bring up your screen now. Okay.
And let me give a little context. So I've been working on for a few years the 14-15 Exquisite base autograph set. That's the first year that Exquisite hockey was ever made. I only need 3 cards left. One of them's Yager. So, this was a month before he died. He messaged me after I made a post asking, who's got the last 3 cards I need. He asked if I ended up buying the Gretzky, which I did. He said, I'm sure we can work something out for the Yager by the next Toronto Expo, because I knew he had the Yager, which was in his PC. He really had no reason to give it to me beyond him just wanting to help me. He said, okay, we'll figure something out. We got lots of time. And that really, there's a lot that we can take from that. When I went back into our messages and read that back, it really, it just kind of broke me. So, we really don't know.
Yeah, we really don't. Before we go over to Eitan, I just want to share a very short story. And this is, I got to admit, guys, this is hazy. I'm not even 100% certain it was John, but I think it was. And it was a similar story to that, Mitch, where I was talking to a guy at the Expo, and it was about a card, and it's very vague to me, but it's in my brain. And the conversation went something like that, Mitch, like, okay, well, if we can't make it work this Expo, we'll make it work next Expo or in the next few years. And the guy says back to me, well, yeah, I have cancer, so you never know, but hopefully. And then it can't happen now because, he died from cancer. So, we, as I said at the top of the show, we don't know. And when something like this happens to whether it's a fellow collector, like in this case, or somebody you work with, or someone you went to high school with, or whatever it is, someone in your family, we question our own mortality, and we realize just how precious life is, how short it can be. And the generosity that you just explained about John is, I think it's inspiring, Mitch, and it's just so nice to hear. And it seems like it was well received and appreciated by you, by Matt in the deal that they did. Good stuff. Thanks for sharing. Okay, let's move on to Eitan Le Cartel. Again, thanks to him for triggering this idea to do this tonight. Eitan, tell us a bit about your relationship with John and what sticks out.
Yeah. So, by the way, I'm good on time, Jeremy. Certainly, I don't mean any disrespect by using the usual cartel garb, but honestly, that's kind of how John knew me. It's how he saw me the last time that we spoke, and the shades also come in handy in case of any waterworks or anything like that. I found out through Mitch as well. Mitch is kind of like my guidance counselor in the hobby. I come to him for all sorts of issues, including emotional ones. And, and it was kind of appropriate hearing it from Mitch. Mitch is such a gem in this hobby and a very giving and generous person. And that's what Jon was, and funny and just easy to get along with and genuine. And when I say genuine, what I really want to impress upon people is, we speak to a lot of people every day, especially if we have active DMs on Instagram and stuff like that. There's a lot of passing conversations. Some promises are made here and there. Some deals are made but never get done. Some do get done. Some conversations are forgotten. But when Jon would tell you he's doing something, he would do it, even if it didn't, even if there was no expectation. I mean, anything he heard about me getting involved in anything, he supported. And so he made a long drive out to see me over at one of the Mint locations, and he brought his kids, and he brought the whole family. He'd always, as we know, we travel with his brother a lot, and I think about his kids running around and grabbing Pokemon and stuff. I think about that a lot. I was hit just as hard as Mitch was during that day, and just instantly from having heard the news, because it was so shocking and unexpected. It was very unexpected. And I also want to say, like, a few days later, when I looked at the GoFundMe, I also had a very visceral emotional response when I saw how everyone was giving and supportive. And it's kind of semi-anonymous, but especially if you don't know people's IG handles and their names and stuff. But I was just blown away by what I saw, specifically, people that just maybe didn't even know Jon, but they were just appreciative of the way people were reacting, and they saw that meant something, and that this was someone valued in the hobby. When you find someone you value in the hobby, you really want to hold tight in this day and age. So I'm not going to sit here and say I was best buds with Jon by any means, but I always looked forward to seeing him at the Expo. I always knew I'd see him at the Expo. And when I was sorting, for my booth, this coming Expo next month, I found myself pulling Jagers. I just instinctively, and I realized, they're not going to the intended recipient. I wanted to share a couple of things here. Obviously, look, it's not a fancy special card, but this is the card I, associate Jon with, is a PSA 10 Jager. And not just because it's, the rookie card and it's in a slab, it's also very representative of a period of time. And, Jon and I grew up enjoying a lot of the same things. Our last few conversations, he was asking about Pokemon, presumably because his kids were so into it. And I looked forward to helping him out with that. And his kid that was into it. And we talked about pro wrestling, which was a big deal to us in the 80s and 90s. And I'm going to a wrestling convention tomorrow. And I know I'm going to be surrounded by everything that he loved and everything that he was into. And the last card, we exchanged a lot of cards. We never did a formal deal like Matt discussed. Not even close, actually. We just kind of gave each other cards. And the last one him and his brother gave me is appropriately a cartel card. It's way off the beaten path. And it's a tough card to find. It's a tough customers ITG card of Bill Goldthorpe. And he doesn't, I'm so bad at this. He doesn't have a lot of cards, this guy, Bill. Check out the afro if you can see that. I think you can see the afro. And he knows I'm into that stuff. And no one, I mean, okay, maybe not no one, but he knew and he took time. And a lot of people don't. And as soon as he showed up with his big smile, it's like Mitch said, you're uplifted, which is sometimes really good at the Expo because it's a bit of a roller coaster sometimes. So I remember one time I was really down and potentially getting upset over something. And after talking to Jon, it's gone. I don't remember what I was getting upset about. And that's a big deal too. And that's a very special person. And I'm glad we're doing this. It came from a very unformed idea, Jeremy. I was thinking like everybody that's got a PSA 10 Yager, put it on display. They're probably gonna have it on display anyway, but put it on display and you got a piece of Jon there with you, or something better because you guys are into the really rare 90s stuff. He did. I do remember hooking him up via Mintink, as you know, Jeremy, fantastic people, for an Aspirations die cut out of 100. Is that right? Someone help me. The Elite Aspirations, the red die cut, it was numbered.
Oh, sounds right.
Yeah. So, I was like, wow, I found a card that Jon doesn't have. And that was an accomplishment, and that felt good that he wanted to add that to his collection. So it just really sucks that we're not going to see him at this expo, but he's definitely going to be with us in spirit, and just doing this also strengthens that. So I'm super happy we're doing that. And, obviously thank you to Mitch for talking to me, and he's my crisis support. And thank you to Jeremy for doing this.
Wow, man. Thanks for sharing all that. That's awesome. The thing that I'm thinking about in the back of my mind as I listened to you and I listened to Mitch was just the way Jon made you guys feel. His presence, he had a presence that made you feel good. As Mitch said, he could be having maybe a little bit of grief at the booth, or maybe a little bit of frustration, maybe who knows what it could be, some stress. I don't know, Mitch. But all of a sudden Jon would come up and it would all go away. And Eitan, you basically just expressed the same thing. Like, that's probably the kind of person we all want to be. We're probably not all exactly like that, but it's kind of the kind of person I think we all want to be, and the kind of people that we all want to be around. And, like they say, the good die young. And I think that's the case here. Jon is, he was 45. He had his wife, Rob, and his kids, Benjamin and Riley. And again, as I've said, I hope that they can watch this. I don't know that they're watching right now. I did send a DM to Jon's account, and tagged it, but I don't know that it was seen. So if they're not watching right now, I hope they can watch eventually and hear you guys, all of us tell stories, but in particular, you guys share just how he made you guys feel good. Like, that's something that if I'm his kid, I'm proud of that. That's a legacy. And that's something that we can all strive to do and to be. I want to welcome Leighton onto the screen. Leighton, we're just going around the horn here. We'll come to you. We're going to go to Will first, Dollar Rookies. Will, thanks for joining, of course. I hope we can hear you. Let's see, can we hear you?
Yeah, you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you. Same thing to you, Will, as I've asked the other guys so far. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Jon, and just what he meant to you. And I have a feeling this could be a bit of a tearjerker. I'm not sure, but tell us a little bit about it.
Well, my experience, I think, is a little different from the rest of you guys. I don't really collect Yager, not in a serious way. I don't go to Expo. I've never met Jon in person, but had a few DM chats with him here and there. We did a couple of deals. We did a few trades. I sold him a couple of things. He would always show me when he got like a cool card in. He would be like, check this out. And so I was really excited. But the thing that sticks with me is, some of you guys know that I collect Alexander Daig. I don't really know why, I just do. But a couple months ago, maybe a year ago, there was a card that I've been looking for a long time. It's a 98 Prime Choice Reserve out of 100 in the Flyers jersey. I'm a born and raised Philadelphian, so that was always like, when he got traded to the Flyers, I remember, being younger, that was like a big deal for me. But anyway, this card, which is, not a valuable card or even really desirable, got posted on eBay for $274. And I remember just being like, wow, no one's going to buy that. And I messaged the seller. When you message people on eBay, it's hard nuance that gets lost in the translation. So it's kind of like, hey, I think this card's a little overpriced just based on what these sell for. I'd love to give you $40 for it. And he had a very negative reaction to that, and was basically called me some names, whatever, that's fine. It was all kind of interesting. So that went back and forth for a little bit, and I don't normally do this, but I posted on my Instagram basically like calling this guy out, being like, this guy's got a card that is overpriced. People should message him and message him with your best offers, which is probably going to be pretty low. And I posted it and was immediately like, this was probably a bad idea. I don't really like to cause trouble or talk trash to people. And John messaged me almost instantaneously, being like, I just offered him $20 for it, and I'm just like blowing up his messages. And he was really he just thought it was like the funniest thing. And periodically, that card stayed on eBay for a long time, and the price always like dropped by $1 or $2, $5 here or there, and I would always post it. And whenever I posted the price, he was just like, I just messaged him, be like, I offered him 19 this time. And so he was just like, I felt, we weren't like super close, but that sort of like, he really got a kick out of that. And it sort of took on a life of its own, where like, obviously I wasn't going to buy that card, but I was like, I kind of started posting those things for him to get his response for it. And yeah, it was a funny thing. And so that card sold for $60. It went down from $275, and finally, after several months, it was at 60. And someone bought it, I guess. And I remember posting that it sold, and he didn't respond to it. And I thought that was a little weird. And obviously, knowing what we know now, it makes sense. But it was always like, I was just sort of waiting for him to say something. Part of me was like, maybe he bought it. But yeah. But so that's my John story.
So he kind of just was in your corner. You don't really know the guy, but he followed each other on Instagram. You're going through this Daig issue, and he got in your corner, kind of was there blocking for you and trying to help you out. That's just is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, and I think it's part of what I like about the sort of community of people is that it's like, I don't need that card at the end of the day. Like, it's not going to improve my life one way or the other, but it's just like, it's sort of entertaining, right? And like, I think he got that and took some enjoyment. And at some point, I'd have to go through the messages, but he was like, never stop posting this card.
Yeah,
right so.
Fun story, Will. Thanks for coming on and sharing it. A couple comments. The Gong Show in the house. Probably Josh. What's going on, Josh? Foul Ball. Jeremy, good to see you. And Blake Curran said, classic John. So he knew that he wasn't surprised that John was going to get in your corner and help you out with the Daig card. Welcome, Leighton. Sheldon from Just Collect. Leighton, welcome to the show. We're talking about Jon Goralewski, as you know, who we lost to cancer. And I don't know, Leighton's more of a baseball guy, but he comes on the show with me every Saturday night for 10 minutes, and we have a little bit of a chat about vintage. And I didn't want to say, Leighton, don't come on tonight. I want you to come on still, but maybe you can just, Leighton, you've been in the hobby your whole life, like most of us. We're all lifers here, I think. Maybe you can share a little bit of a story with us, sort of about, have you lost a close friend from the hobby, and what was that like? And just maybe, and say a few words, if you will, just about, to us, us being, I don't like to pigeonhole myself as being just a hockey guy. I like to collect everything, but most of the people, we're hockey guys on the screen. So I'll just leave it at that. Let you say a few words.
Sure. Well, first, I'm honored to even be part of tonight's program, as I didn't know John personally, but my thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family. Hearing about his wife and his kids, I'm sure it's an immensely difficult time. And the thing that really strikes me is that it's Saturday night, and this gentleman was part of a hobby that we all have a different maybe interest in, but ultimately it's the community that has us here tonight. And so I'm really touched by that. And so I think that's really what's at the top of mind for me, Jeremy, is that at the end of the day, whether it be it's a Daig card, a Yager card, or some other card, or autograph or piece of memorabilia, it seems to be really kind of secondary for a lot of us. And it's really nice to see because, we all have our own family and our own friends, but yet I'll be candid. I don't remember the last time I was on a Zoom call with 5 or 6 other of my friends or family members, most certainly on a Saturday night. So, I appreciate you having me. It's really wonderful just to be part of the overall larger, card community, and to see just all this general goodwill and, people in each other's corner and just trying to cheer each other up. I think it's wonderful. So, I just wanted to say that, I guess to start off with, Jeremy. So, thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to just push one more, or just restate, we've all, I'm going to assume we've all lost friends and family along the way. None of us are we're not enough, are young enough that we haven't. Leighton, I've been involved with a website, an online community called Hobby Insider for quite a long time now, 20 years. And I've actually owned it for 12, I guess. And there's a sub forum on there called Remembered Members. And, when we've lost members of that community, there's been a post with, it's all text as a message board is. It's not like this where it's all, visual and us talking. But I know from myself, Leighton, and everybody that I've seen probably a dozen hobbyists that I knew or, knew of well enough pass away in the last, 10, 15 years, probably more. Obviously there's more. I just don't know them. But Leighton, have you lost any, have you seen young people passing away in the hobby in your travels? You've been in this hobby a long time. You have a ton of contacts, a ton of reach. You are a professional baseball card treasure hunter. Tell us, is there anybody that comes to mind that you'd like to remember tonight?
Sure. So I'll try to keep it brief, as I know this is about Jon, and his life and his legacy. So, for me, there's 2 people that come to mind, and they both are related to Leighton's, the auction house. They're both friends of mine, but one a little bit more of my age. And so the first one, probably most everyone is not going to know. His name is Jerry Schwartz. He was an adopted, Korean Jew that hailed from Hohokus, New Jersey, and unfortunately lost his wife at a young age. And so it was someone I went to college with. I actually got him a job at Leighton's, and I'll kind of leave it at that. But I miss him very much. And then just related to Leighton's, so my second job after I graduated college was working for Leighton's auction house. And there would definitely be no Leighton's if it wasn't for Josh Evans. And, Josh Evans was, certainly widely known in the hobby and still to this day known by many. And so I had the good fortune to be part of the organization for 4 years, personally traveled with him and, saw a lot. And there were definitely ups and downs, but I learned a lot. I worked hard. And, may he rest in peace. I knew his parents, Stuart and Maxine. I'm still very close with Mike Hefner from Leighton's. And, I certainly miss him. So I can certainly commiserate with you guys that are missing Jon on tonight. And once again, I really appreciate letting me be part of tonight's show.
Yeah, well, appreciate that. And I invite anybody in the chat, anyone else on the screen right now, to shout out anyone else that we've lost in the hobby that was special to you. Feel free to do so. Leighton, you're welcome to stick around or pop off whenever you want. No worries at all there. I'm going to now share something, guys, about Jon. I'm going to share my screen, and I have a few. I went through my DMs and I took some screenshots. So I just want to share that with you guys here and everybody who's watching. So this is the first one. I'll zoom in. There he is at the top. How do I do this? JJ Gore Pens says, he says, I'll show you some bling. And he sends me a picture of this Yager. I forget the year, 2003, something like that. He says, here's a card you don't see every day. I said, I love those. That's one of the 33, right? He goes, yeah. And then I send him a picture. I send him a picture of mine. I say mine with the shades. And he goes, ooh, one of those little exchanges where we're card bros. We own the same card. That was a fun exchange. And again, I don't know the guy that well. I just know him through the odd DM and comment on posts. Here's the next one. I had done a story post about hosting the networking event at the Expo that I host every time on Thursday night. And he asks, "Are Jagger fans allowed, or will there be too many?" And I said, "Jagger fans only." He LOLs, and then I had put up my map, the map of where I would be situated at the Expo. He says, "Don't forget, bring the Jagers." LOL. I'm sure you've all received messages like that from Jon in the past, in your DMs, and often unsolicited. He wasn't shy about just reaching out and letting you know. And I always respect that about a collector who loves what they collect so much that they will just get into your DMs and let you know and ask you to bring it. I guess I had shown these two cards. I forget what this story post was back in February, where I showed a Jerry Rice and a Jagr. I have no idea why the two are on there together, but he writes to me, "You shouldn't be PCing that type of Jagr card." I should, right? Like, and of course, you could receive that message from somebody and take offense to it, right? But I knew right away that it wasn't like that. He LOLs, I LOL, and that was the end of that one. It was just a funny little exchange. I guess I posted. This is a post I put to my story, but it's a picture of me, and I said something like, "I'm coming back after 12 weeks of vacation, and I missed my cards." And he's like, "Oh, you missed your cards or the Bedard Frenzy?" Probably a little bit of both, because that was early on in the Bedard Frenzy. And then this was nice because I acquired a big Grail Timu Solani for me, and he just wrote back, "Sweet card, awesome patch, congratulations!" Like a really nice, congrats on getting a card like we do with each other. I say thank you. And a couple of heaters on a couple of posts I make. I posted this Jeremy Roenick 1-of-1 property of here with, I guess, some Roenick cards in my collection. And he says to me, "I'm a big fan of these property of cards. I think they're like diamonds in the rough. What's your opinion on these?" And I went and said, "I love them too. Unique like Shields, but I think they stopped putting them in the cup when they introduced ingrained." Which, Mitch, maybe you can confirm that for me. I think, is that the case?
That is the case. Yeah, unfortunately, I've asked Upper Deck when they're going to put in a new nameplate set, and they said they will. They have a plan for it, so hopefully we can see that again soon.
Yeah. But again, just some nice, pleasant interactions with Jon, and this is the last interaction I had with him. I believe June 27th of this year. There's a Crosby property of selling on eBay on Slab Sharks, and he writes to me, "This card ends tonight. I think it will be going big. I'm gonna watch it." And he says, "I'm just not sure if Crosby has different years of 1-of-1 Crosby, the show cards, but should be a show tonight." I'm not sure why he talked about the show there. So wait, that was June 27th. I unfortunately did not write back to him on that one, which of course I feel bad about now, but those things happen. And then 3 days later, he says, "Got a question. It's this one. I got to tell you, this one makes me feel sad." He says, "I got a question. It's my birthday next week. Looking for a gift for myself. Would you consider selling the Jagr 6th Sense from your collection? There's a few out there I'm looking at, but I need that one. That would be awesome if you might consider." And I said, "Sorry, man, not for sale, but happy birthday." And he said, "Thank you, had to try." And I think about that now, and here's the card. I still have it. It's not a card that's going anywhere. And in a way, had I moved it to him, it would have made him happy in what ended up being his last few months of life. But then at the same time, he's not here to enjoy it anymore, and I still have the card, and it's one that to me is kind of like this one and this one right here, where he told me I shouldn't be PCing a card like this. These are the two cards in my collection that I'm going to forever have linked up in my memory to Jon. So I'm glad I still have this one, even though I feel bad that I wasn't willing to move it to him when he wanted it for his own birthday present. But I'm sure, that's kind of just the way it goes, I guess. And Mitch, I think you just let me know that. Oh, the other one is, of course, this one here where we own this copy of the same card. And thanks, Mitch. This is 0304 Topps pristine gold refractor out of 33. I do love these cards, and John did too. So, yeah, those were some of my exchanges with him over the past few years. And as I mentioned, like, I did not know John very well. Saw him at the Expo, talked Yager. I don't know about you guys who went to the Expo with booths. I think pretty much all of us. Matt, have you ever set up there? I know I met you at the National one time, but no.
No, I don't set up. I just go Yager hunting if possible. But that's a tough ploy at the National this year. Not too much Yager stuff.
No, for sure not. I just feel like every time I saw John at Expo, he seemed to be in a rush. Like he didn't have a lot of time. Yeah, okay. It's not just me. He didn't have a lot of time. He'd come by the booth. He'd look at the card, say, okay, I like that or something. I got to think. I'll be right back. And you see him kind of run off, go to another booth, and you don't know if you're going to see him again that day or that show, or maybe he'll come back the next day. But that's sort of another memory that I have of him. Was just that feeling that he was always kind of on his way somewhere, running around, and really he seemed to really cherish his time at the Expo, as limited as it might have been. Mitch, you have anything to jump in with on all that?
Yeah, every time he would walk up to my booth, he'd always give me the same line, be like, "Where are my Yagers?" Like every time, like he's like, I'm like, "You took them all," and it's one, kind of harping back on what Matt was saying earlier when he was talking about how like he was just kind of like a magician, where he would just come up with these cards. I think a lot of people that are watching this, maybe like they only have seen like his Instagram page, and like it's honestly like hilarious the cards he chose to post, because it is such a microcosm of what his whole collection was. And like one of my favorite things about him is that he would just randomly send me like these unbelievable, like just huge cards that he never posted on Instagram. And he'd just be like, I was going through my collection today and I just thought these were so cool. And he would just show me like every Jaromir Jagr limited logos in order. He had them all. And like something like that, or like some kind of 101, or just some huge monster. And you're just like, how cool is this? Like just someone, it's kind of, I don't know what the right word is, maybe ironic, that he was someone who just always seems so happy just to be alive, which is maybe it's fitting of someone who is living with cancer. But he like really took that to the limit in a way that I find very inspiring.
Did you know that he had cancer?
He did tell me a while ago, and I don't know what the right, like he never seemed like he had cancer, so I just kind of forgot about it until I heard that he died. Like the thought hadn't crossed my mind in years. So really,
yeah. What about you, Eitan? Did you? And I want to know from all of you guys, Ralph, Matt. Did you guys know that he had cancer?
Yeah.
Ralph, you're nodding yes. Eitan, you did not?
I knew like maybe 4 years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago. But like when he mentioned it, it's like it didn't even exist. Like, you know what I mean? He just said it just for, I guess, the sake of saying it. But like the way how like he presented himself was like everything was fine. You know what I mean? He didn't want to put you in that position to be like, oh, poor me. He wanted to be very uplifting, which he was. And yeah, like he was just like as like Mitch and Matt were saying, like he just funny guy, just like how you said, Jeremy, how he's just seems like he's always in a hurry, right? I've had one time where I think it was last Expo. I actually brought more Yager to sell at the table, and that was when I was with Matt for the first time. So I was at a different booth, and he comes running over. I had my back, like I was facing towards the other way. He didn't even know that I was there. He's looking at all the Yager cards. And he's like, yeah, I just heard from my buddies over here. There's so many Yagers over here. And he starts looking at all the cards. And he knows that it's me because he relates the cards to who owns them, right? He's like, oh, man. He's like, no, not you. He's like, I thought it was a fresh table. Funny guy.
How about you, Eitan? You were shaking your head. No, you did not know he had cancer?
So I didn't. He never mentioned it to me, and I don't think too much on that because I'm sure he has reasons for communicating that to people or not communicating it. Maybe that's that hit me so hard. Part of the reason was I had no idea, and I'd seen him not long ago in person, and I wouldn't have guessed, as is often the case, right? I mean, we don't know the health battles that people are actively engaged in. And I don't know, we were just always positive. Something I noticed in going through my messages with him is there was one specific period of time where I was kind of doing a little bit of whining and complaining about a certain situation that I was in. And I just never shared it with Jon because I didn't want to inject that into the types of conversations that we had. Like, as of late, he showed, and I think the cool thing is with Mitch saying that he's showing him all these limited logos and things is I think he curated to people's interests when he'd show off his Yagers, because the last one he showed off to me was a 93 Sports Illustrated for kids, PSA 10, which is a pop one. And he says, Cartel, this is something you would appreciate. And it absolutely is. It's right up my alley. And then he was discussing getting his buddy some Marcel Dion cards, and he was kind of actively and aggressively looking for stuff for his buddy. And, I didn't have any Dions that he didn't already have, but we showed a few off, and he shared an opinion that he feels Dion autographs are undervalued. I kind of agree with him. And it was just that sort of thing. It was always like a positive conversation. The last thing he sent to me was like a repost of something involving Mint, and he was always very supportive of Mint Inc. and anything I was doing with them. And I didn't respond back. I just kind of liked that he did that. And of course, you kind of beat yourself up over not being able to say more or engage more in discussion. But it was super cool that he came to see me at one of the stores and spent some time, because like you said, it seems like time was very precious to him. So to have him around for a good half an hour, 45 minutes, him and his brother ripped some clear cut just for fun. They didn't do so well. As they were leaving, Jon's like, let me get one more for my brother. And it was a Brodeur autograph. So that was at least a decent way to conclude the rip session. And so I had zero idea.
Matt, I don't know if I asked you yet. What was your take on that?
I did not know. And I liked what Lake Cartel said there, right? He's got his reasons to share what he wants to who he wants at different times. And, when I did reach out to Robin, I was, chatting with her on Facebook Messenger, and I said, I didn't know. And, she said something, prophetic in the sense that this hobby, you don't always know why people are doing things in this hobby, right? There's collectors, there's flippers, there are people who love the cards, people who love the players, people who want to do this full time, people who do this job. And sometimes people need it because it gives them something else in life. Right. And, some of the words that she sort of said were about that this hobby made him happy, right? The conversations made him happy. It took him to a place, right, where he didn't have to think about what was going on and didn't have to answer questions or get asked about it. And it really gave him, as she said, quote, a sense of joy, right? To have these conversations and to be part of sort of this movement here that we're all involved in. So, I think that we all, whether we realize it or not, played an interesting and probably an important part of his life. Probably one of the, obviously outside of his family, but one of the fun things, right? One of the good things that he really cared about. And I think that's pretty cool.
Thanks for that. I just want my filthy habit is watching on Instagram. Is it too late to join the live chat? No, it is not. If anybody does want to join in and you have something to share, please do. But you have to come onto YouTube. Well, actually, you don't. You just have to come. You just have to come through the link. I'm going to post the link on YouTube. You'll have to be on YouTube. So, my filthy habit, Ryan, if you want to join, come on over to YouTube. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now, and I'm going to open it up to just about anybody. There it is. If you want to come on and say a few words, I'm taking a bit of a leap of faith here that everyone is going that we're going to get like real people here that want to come on, but the link is there, so feel free to join in. Matt, back to what you were saying. We talked about how his time was precious. He was always kind of running around. We don't know what's going on in someone's life, but the hobby brought him joy. It brings us all joy. And I don't know for sure, maybe Robin could she's not here, but she could maybe listening, is nodding her head along with what I hope with what I'm about to say is that, he was, I feel like he was very committed to his family, to his kids, spent a lot of time caring for them. And so his time at the Expo or going to Mint Inc. or wherever was limited. So he made the most of it. He made the most of it, went in there, ran around, saw everything he wanted to see, did his Yager hunting, and then left. And that just tells me he was a family man and a good man. So that's real. And the other thing that we all have in common with him is that the hobby provides us all with an escape from what gives us stress in real life. I like to think that that's the case, whether we are dealing with a terminal illness like cancer, or we are having relationship issues or job issues, financial issues, whatever it might be. Even if we're having hobby issues, if there's drama in the hobby, what I always like to think of, I can always go back to my cards to make me feel or just ground me within the hobby and to get to escape from the difficulties, the stresses of life. The hobby and our community within it are really conducive to helping us with that. At least I find that to be the case. Couple comments. BST says, you never know what someone is going through in this hobby, so be kind. Kindness makes this hobby stand out. It does. It does. The unfortunate part, or really the unfortunate part of that, is that it doesn't get enough attention. Sometimes the criticisms, the bullying that goes on in the hobby, that gets a lot of the attention, and as it should, because it should be pushed back against. But the kindness should be supported and encouraged, and it's nice. That's a great comment, BST Sports Cards. And Triple V says, well said. I mean, yeah, no doubt. That was very well said. I'm glad you popped in with that comment. I want to here's something that I think, people also think about is what happens or what's going to happen now to Jon's collection, because it was his collection. And I haven't talked to his spouse. I haven't talked to anyone. Mitch, you just put up your hand, I think, and I know you did mention something to me. So just go ahead. What's going on with his collection as far as you know?
So I don't know exactly what's going to happen to the collection. But one thing I thought about is that, Jon's collection is worth a lot of money. He had quite an extensive, valuable Yager collection. And, we all have heard those stories where someone passes away and their family has no idea that the cards are worth anything. It gets sold at a garage sale or, at 10% comps at some shady hobby store or something. So I also reached out to his wife, and I just wanted to make sure, because we all know, like, the stories, I'm sure a lot of people watching have done this, where they buy a card for a couple grand and they tell their spouse that, oh no, this was $20. So I had no idea, if, how much John shared with his wife about what his cards were worth, because he does have, a number of 4-figure cards. So I just reached out to her wanting to make sure that she knew that. I tried to give her some advice on, like, here is what I would do to kind of maximize the value. Like I told her, don't sell it all in one lot. I recommended consigning it. And she told me, luckily at the end, John kind of sat her down and walked her through what everything was worth. So I'm happy to hear that, she has an idea. And, I was thinking about this a lot, because I don't know about you guys, but I definitely want a piece of his collection more so than I would that same card, if it were not part of his collection, just to kind of, have, especially because, I don't have any of his cards. He had a bunch of my cards because he bought all my Yagers. So I would love to have, a couple cards from his collection. I think it would be, significantly more meaningful to have those cards. I don't know, she hasn't indicated to me one way or the other, when or if they're going to sell it. I imagine eventually they will.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'm glad you reached out. It's, good of you to do that, just to make sure. It's also nice to, I mean, he knew I assume he knew that death was all either imminent or possibly imminent. And so that he let her know what they were worth. I'm also wondering, did he let her know how to dispose of them eventually, what to do? And that's something we all need to think about. I'll get to you in a sec, Ralph. Thank you for putting your hand up. But we all need to do that with our collections, is let somebody in our life know what to do with them. Don't just drive them to the nearest LCS. Don't just put them on Kijiji or Craigslist to sell them. Especially if you have family and kids, right? That money is going to be very important. So I think the good advice is to, however it is, but to help these families maximize the return financially on those cards, because the collector's gone. And if the family isn't going to appreciate them, then best to convert them into cash to help support the family. And Mitch, I agree with what you said. This community is it's like, again, it's more than just the cards. Like, you want to own a card from his collection, not because you want the card, because you want the card from his collection. And like, for me, I'm sure I would too, but I have this one that he wanted for his own birthday present, and I still have it. So that's going to be that card for me. Like, this one is going to be extra special because it's the one that he wanted most from my collection. And that's a special thing for me. He never owned it, but he really wanted it, and I denied him that opportunity. So out of respect for him, I'm gonna care for this card as if I co-owned it with Jon Goralewski, and maybe we can be card bros that way with that card there. Ralph, you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, so I just wanted to state, like, as per like his collection that he's already got, he was lucky that he had a brother that they both collected hockey cards, right? So his brother is like he's a super collector of Mario Lemieux. So it's very good that he's got a lot of intel in the hobby as well. So his wife isn't blindsided if she tries to make a choice. If she does go down that route, can get some positive feedback from his brother, right? So
yeah, I think that's something that now the brother's name is Joe, I believe, and yeah, I guess I've been overlooking that. She has her brother-in-law who knew the hobby as well. So obviously he'll be there. I would think he'll be there to help with that transition eventually. So that's just really good to know and to hear. So Yeah, it's a tough thing, but again, I just want to come back to what I was saying a few seconds ago, that we all need to consider what's going to happen in our untimely demise. Us five on the screen, and everybody watching, listening, don't leave your family without information on what to do with these cards, and just find someone you trust, someone in the hobby, and make sure that they can reach out to that person. Matt, I want to ask you, have you done that? Like, you've got a great collection. I love your Instagram account. I love how you curate your posts. Have you advised your family?
Mhm.
I don't know much about your family,
Yeah.
but are you married? Are you married? Do you have kids?
Yeah, married, 3 kids, and big Yager collector, but big love vintage baseball. Haven't been buying much recently, but got some some nice cards there. A couple that I've posted. So I have, my wife is up to speed on the cards that she needs to know, but I've also given her point of contacts. So if God forbid something is to happen, if it's Yager stuff, right, these are the people that I'd probably want you to reach out to, who can help point you in the right direction, even before just saying just throw them to consignment, right? Talk to some of the people that I trusted. And similar with some of the higher end vintage baseball stuff in doing that. But also for me, I got 3 boys, sort of giving them an opportunity if there's something that they want to hold, that's going to, keep that going. That to me is sort of the first place, for, assuming we're still in a financially, sound situation. And it's an interesting topic, right? And I think everybody probably thought about, hey, what's going to happen to his collection? And I know I did. And I have a lot of mixed emotion on it, to be completely honest. And I get, Mitch's perspective. I'm sort of somewhere between Mitch and you, Jeremy, because, similar, I have cards that I received from John, right? Where I had, cards that came out of his PC, and like you, I do have a few cards, and I can show those where he tried to pry them and we just couldn't get the deal to work. Right. So I still have a few of those that come to mind. And I hope, however, the collection eventually gets moved. And, as a, pure Yager collector, I might, still try to get a couple there, but I hope it's just done in a good way that makes the family happy, that they feel comfortable in the approach that they're taking. And, that everybody does it in good spirit there, because John was a good guy. And I think that's what he would want, right, at the end of the day.
I think he'd also want you to move me that Centurions, but that's for another topic, for another.
Look, I asked you for the 6 cents, also a while back there. At least you were consistent in your answers, so I appreciate that. And doesn't sound like I'll be getting that one anytime soon either.
Well, especially not now, but
no.
And I'm half kidding. Of course, Le Cartel. I want to hear from you, because I do know that you are unmarried, sans children at this point. You got a collection yourself. What do you have? What do you have planned? What kind of controls do you have in place upon your untimely demise? I know it's so weird to talk about, but I think it's important. I'm curious.
Before we get to that, is it possible that a Solani can come your way that might tempt you to? That's the game plan I would have with Jeremy, is try to get a Temu that can get me that Yager.
I'll look into it.
Just trying to give people ideas.
Good strategy. Good advice.
I'm glad we touched on this. Not necessarily because of myself, but I know some unbelievable collectors. One that comes off the top of my head, he's probably watching right now, a certain Crosby collector whose collection is just unreal. And I'm always getting in the ear of these super collectors, because he is a pure collector. He's not out there running around trying to accumulate the latest and greatest or make specific investments. He just has a very clear path of picking up Crosbys that he needs, checking them off the list, grading, regrading. It's just all Crosby. And it is such a hugely important thing. These people that I know that are super collectors, generally they have families, and they're very, I don't know, they're just kind of like in it themselves is the feeling I get. I don't know if they have those discussions with their loved ones, and I'm just always reminding them of how important that is. I was trying to get some super collectors to move their PCs during the big boom during the pandemic, because those really were the top if you're making a card ladder chart, there's a top for a lot of these cards. And that's how you know someone's a super collector. They didn't cash out during that, peak market. For myself, yeah, I mean, I'm probably behind on this concept. And as Jeremy knows, like, I don't just collect cards. Some of my most valuable collections are not in the realm of the sports arena. And it is a thought that I have. There are people in my family that know about my passion. And I would hope that it dawns on them that there'd be some value there. I do need to go into specifics with some people. This is certainly a reminder of doing that for sure. And, recently I've added some other things, like getting like a lockbox for some of the more expensive items, just little things like that. And yeah, I do need to get the info out there. In a lot of cases, it's going to be these items that people would never suspect. When you see people going through like storage lockers, which is in itself, anytime I see a big score, like with collectibles, I just immediately start thinking about the collector, and it's kind of tragic in many ways, but it's a very important element in all of this, because a lot of the stuff no one would guess is worth the time or the effort. So I am getting into the habit of also, labeling things, making notes, and that sort of thing. Super important.
Definitely. And something else to keep in mind when we talk about this is that these things can change. The people that you might want to put your family in touch with once you're gone, that can change from 1 month to the next. So something to revisit every so often as well. I know that at one time I it's even in my estate papers, it says, send everything to this such and such seller. And, that's changed since I did that 8 years ago when I had my first kid and we did those papers up, or, realized we're having a kid. That's not going to go to that same group anymore. It's going to go to a different group. So, because things change, companies go out of business, think there all sorts of things can happen. So it's good that it's important to keep on top of that as the years continue to go by, for sure. As we're talking about Jon over the last, hour and 20 minutes or so, I've been writing down words that have come to mind based on what we've all said that helped me to describe Jon. And again, I did not know Jon very well. I met him in person a few short times at I might have spent a total of 15 minutes with the guy. Total, maybe half an hour, including one of the networking events at Jack Astor's for the Expo. But I've been writing down some of these words, and I want to share them because, this is how I think I will look back on Jon, as time goes by and we continue to commemorate him and just, have those moments of remembering a fellow community member, a fellow sports card collector, Jager collector, Penguins fan, all those different things. And I'll just read them to you because I think this is the impression I have of Jon. So these are the words in no particular order. He was kind. He was kind because he knew all of us through our online personas. He knew all of us in our unique ways. And he had an attention to detail and a memory for this thing. And then he would customize his communications with us to speak to us and maybe to I don't know, just to build rapport with each of us. I think he was good at that. He was friendly, as we've said. He was always friendly, inspiring. I think his friendliness itself was inspiring, passionate for cards, passionate for what he collected. And although I can't confirm it, but I have to imagine very passionate for his family as well. And reading his obituary, I think I can confirm that that came through there. So family balance, those are the words that I have so far. But I want to put it out to you guys. Is there anything else that you would use to describe Jon? And listen, I think the reason why I even put this out there is because for anyone else who's going to listen to this or watch this in the future, who knows, his grandchildren could watch this, 25, well, no, probably more, 50 years from now. And so I know it's maybe I'm putting more credence to this podcast tonight than I should or than it's worth. But in the event that his family watches or listens to this, his future grandchildren, his children when they grow up, I want them to hear from us what we thought of him. And I put it out there. Matt, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, if I had to describe it in one word, and that's not on your list, as I was, thinking about it.
I know what it's going to be.
No, I don't know.
No, maybe not.
To me, it's impactful. And I say that because look where we are, right? He impacted all of us in a certain way, whether it was the cards, whether it was the conversation, whether it was the distraction, the friendliness, right? He had an impact on all of our lives in a different way. All the people that are online, right, that are dialed in and listening and watching to this. So, he had that ability, and, there are people that come and go in this hobby, that you talk with that don't leave those lasting impacts, right? But he was impactful. And there was something about him for all those other descriptors and adjectives that you named. But at the end of the day, right, he had something special and he could impact you. And that's what brought us all here together.
I think that word kind of summarized like everything I said. You wrapped it up really nicely. The word I thought you were going to say, because I realized that right after I turned it over to you that I didn't write down, but that is apparent, is generous. Yeah. I think he was generous. Maybe not as much with his time for us because he was so generous with his time for his family. So that's what we give him a complete pass on that. But he was generous, sending out cards. I feel like he was a generous person. Mitch, anything come to mind? I'll go around the horn here, guys. So Ralph, Eitan, think of something while we put Mitch on the hot seat.
Yeah, you stole. I was gonna say generous. Yeah, I mean, he really. I feel like if we can learn anything from him, it's that if you have the opportunity to, do something to make someone's day better, just be proactive and do it. If I do it all the time, I feel like, and it feels amazing. Especially in this hobby, it's maybe easier to do it in this hobby because we have something like you can just give someone a card. And that's going to be some special thing. I've given a couple of you guys cards, and it's felt great. And it's just like an easy, nice way to help someone and participate in the hobby. It doesn't always have to be, what can I get out of this? I think a lot of people forget, this here, what we're doing. This is something that we're getting out of it, and to me, that's really important.
Appreciate that. Eitan?
Loyal. He was just he was the genuine article, and he was loyal. I told that story of him telling me he was gonna come visit me, and he came to visit, and it meant a lot. It means I think it means a lot as time goes. It means more as time goes on. And always checking in, always making sure that if you were winning, that he was supporting you, and if anything else was going on, you knew that you could just get away from it by having a fun conversation about the hobby that we love. So that's what I think of. Obviously, funny as well. Dude was a jokester. And he always came in with the smile. You didn't have to make the smile. He made you smile, but he came in with the smile already. You just looked at him and he gave off this vibe like we're about to make some funny jokes here. And just the first time I met him, when you meet a collector, and I've seen this in the chat already, there's this really strange connection because you enjoy the same things. So there's already like a connection there. And it resonates more strongly with some, than others, and it resonated very strongly with John. And he's a big presence too. He's a tall dude. I don't know if he's Jeremy level tall, but you know, I'm up there, and I'm telling you, he's tall. So yeah, just a very loyal and funny presence.
Right on. No, good. Hi, everyone's contributing some great stuff. Stammer, pressure's on now. What anything come to mind for you that, and if nothing, you know, you can reiterate what you've heard, but come in with something new or whatever you got.
Well, I'd say a word for him would be transparent. Very, very transparent individual. Does not hold back. Right? Says he speaks his mind. He speaks truth. And it just goes on. Like, even if something's like bothering him, he just doesn't just let it go down. He's gonna speak his mind. He's gonna give his 2 cents on what he thinks, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. He just likes to make it, as I said, transparent, right?
Yeah, that's, oh man, you guys all brought it. I get, we lost Eitan briefly. Hopefully he comes back. I'll watch for him. Yeah, you guys all came with some great stuff there. Sorry I stole yours, Mitch, there on the generosity, but I mean that one was obvious. Couple comments have come in here. Brett Miles, who's been a recently previous guest on Sports Cards Live, says, when a fellow collector can bring words like kind, friendly, inspiring, passionate, family, balanced to the forefront, that speaks volumes. Positive tones, positive memories. I love it. Yeah, Brett bringing it as always. Thanks, Brett, and completely agree with all that. Bobby Burrell makes a great point. Says, we come into the hobby for selfish pleasures for cards and collectibles, but we soon realize we stay in the hobby for the people and the relationships we've sown. Yeah, I mean, it's more, the hobby is more than just cards. And I want to add one thing to what Bobby says, you know, and the relationships and the experiences which, you know, are what help us form these relationships, but the experiences with the people that we are in these relationships with are a huge part of it. That's the great thing about all the events, the card shows that we get together at when we're able to and see each other. You know, we see each other. Like, Mitch, you live in Chicago, and Cartel, you're in Toronto. Ralph, Toronto. Matt, I honestly don't know where you live, but you know,
New York.
You're in New York, all right. And we haven't seen each other but for a few minutes at a national. But, you know, I see my hobby friends who I don't live in the same city with. I see my friends that live here locally, you know, because it's just the way life goes. So the relationships, the experiences are a huge part of it, as Bob mentions. Thanks, Bobby, and good to see you as always. Reed, as I like to call him, Case, says, a word that comes to mind for me is genuine. Whenever he talked to me, we're talking about John again, whenever John talked to me, but asked me questions, and you could tell he truly cared about what you had to say and the cards you picked up. Even the first time I met him, he treated me like a close friend. Yeah. Oh, Reed, thanks for sharing that, because that didn't come to mind for me. I wouldn't have articulated it like that, but that's kind of the feeling I get when I think about John as well, is when he came to my booth at Expo for those very short visits, because he had a lot of things to do in a short amount of time there. You just, and it's like you said too, Mitch, he just kind of made you smile. I think, and Eitan, you said the same thing. He just made you smile. He just made you feel good. He came with that positive energy, and that's something that we are going to miss. We're going to miss him at the Expo. We're going to miss him on Instagram. We're going to miss him in our DMs. All of us are going to miss John, even though, you know, I shouldn't say even though, like, to the degree that we interacted with him. Admittedly, I didn't interact with him a ton, but we did. And I knew him. Some of you guys interacted with him more than others, and I'm so glad that you did, so that you could bring your stories here and share them, and we could really do this guy justice. And you know, this episode will live. This episode will live on, and this is I look at this as a tribute to John, And I'm glad that I could be a part of that. And I'm glad you're all a part of it. I'm glad that Eitan, triggered this idea to do this tonight. So yeah, that's about really all I have to say right now. Mint Inc., where Eitan, you worked and you're close with the guys at Mint Inc. They are a partner and sponsor of this show, and we're going to do the $50 Mint Inc. giveaway as we do every Saturday night here on the show. So I want to do that. But first, Ryan, my filthy habit, who I just got to spend the weekend with in Vancouver, says, I've done a few deals with John, and what stood out for me most was when he bought my Dion limited logos for his friend for his birthday. What a great guy. He will be missed. Yeah, Ryan. And Ryan, I did see your message on Instagram. I put the link in the chat. If you want to jump on, you are welcome to jump on now and tell a story in person if you'd like to. I'll share the link one more time, but no pressure you don't have to come on, but if you want to, I've just posted it to the chat again. Reed says, from my experiences, John was the master gift giver. Well, there's something to aspire towards. He was very inspirational for sure. Thanks for that, Reed. Appreciate that comment right there. Let's do the Mint Inc. $50 giveaway, guys. I'm gonna share my screen again. You're gonna see a hashtag, and you know what? Hey, don't feel bad about entering this to win, even during this sort of remembering Jon Goralewski episode. He'd want somebody to win this and spend the money and spend it at the Mint and on mintink.ca or at their booth at the Expo. You can do that too. So I'm going to share my screen right now. If you'd like to enter, you have to type into the chat exactly what you see in front of you. You have to include the hashtags JJ, GOR, pens. JJ for John, I guess his middle name may start with J. Gore is shortened for his last name, Goralewski, and pens for the Penguins. JJ Gore pens. Put that in the chat, and we'll see how many entries we get right now. We currently have on YouTube, let me see, YouTube, 30 people right now, so get it in there. Twitter, we got about 29, and get your entries in. It's might be an easier win right now, but maybe you'll buy some Jagers with or put the money towards a Jager. So get that in there. Hashtag JJ Gore pens, and this is definitely a tribute giveaway for John. And so every Expo in Toronto, it's coming up, guys, in like 3 weeks on the Thursday night. If you're going to be there, you're all invited. Everyone's invited, whether you're listening, watching, or on the panel right now. You're invited to the networking event that I host on Thursday night after the show ends at about 8 o'clock at Jack Astor. Provide the address and all that, but it's for my Instagram. And at that event this coming November, I think we're doing November the 7th. Yes, November the 7th. We're going to do a toast to John at that event in person. Ryan, I see you've joined. You're back there. Give me a thumbs up ready, and I'll bring you onto the screen. 9 entries. 9 entries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 entries. We have 33 people, and if easing up a little bit, it'll pass. It will. My connection is really spotty. Okay, it'll pick up. It'll pick back up. All right. Am I still spotty? Spotty?
A little bit.
Okay. Let's bring Ryan on. Ryan, what's going on? Good to see you again. Welcome to the show.
How's it going? Sorry, I'm a bit of a rookie
Good.
at this stuff here. Took me about half an hour.
That's okay.
Figure this stuff out.
Take a moment. Take a moment and just let us know a little bit about your relationship with John, and tell a story about him if you'd like to.
So yeah, I'd love to. First of all, I haven't really met him yet in person, which was really a bummer because we were going to meet at the Expo coming up in a few weeks. But we did a lot of deals together, and one of the deals we did was he bought my Jaeger Premier Star Auto Patch 1/1. And he also bought a bunch of Marcel Dion cards. Had a No 607 limited logo, and or not 0607, 0708, and he bought a 1011, I believe. And it's really cool because he's like, hey, I have a friend, and I'm buying it for a gift for him, and I don't even know who this friend is, but he's like, make sure you don't post anything because it's a surprise. And so it was really, you could tell what type of person he was. And we chat online, and we chat on Instagram all the time. And what happened is we were actually doing a deal, and we were mid deal. And so what happened is he ended up, I sent the card to him, and then he owed me some money. And then I didn't hear from him. And I'm like, oh, that's strange, because we've done many deals before. And so I checked it out, and I found out that he had passed away. And I was like, wow, this is just like so tragic that this would happen, because he's the same age as me basically, and he's got 2 kids. And I've got 2 kids, and I'm sitting there. It's although I haven't met him, it really hits hard, because you just talk with somebody and you connect, right? Like, we all have our hobby and we connect, and it was pretty tragic. So I didn't like. So what happened is, a few days later, his wife actually messaged me, and she's like, "Hey, John owes you some money." And I said, "Well, what I'll do is because I know it's sort of a hard thing, right? Because I mean, she's just lost her husband, and I offered. I said, look, this card is worth, a few thousand. I said, I'll give you the money back, just, because I don't know. And then you could send the card back, and then you could have some extra funds. And I didn't know what to say, because it was really hard. But she said she wanted to pay for the card, and she wanted to keep his collection, and the Jaeger card I gave him, she wanted to keep that for his kids. And she said that when they grow up, hopefully they'll take over his Jaeger collection and stuff like that. So that it was really touching, but it was definitely hit hard. Like, it was even, like I said, even though I haven't met him in person, it was really tough to deal with, because we talked all the time about, stuff just like you guys. Right. So it was a pretty tough to take, so just wanted to share that little story about John. And I wish I would have met him, because I'm coming to the Toronto Expo in a couple of weeks, and I was excited. I'm excited to see, like, for me, coming to the Expo is not just about finding cards, but it's about seeing, all the people that you've gotten friendships with, right? And I was excited to meet John, because he always had a sense of humor when we were talking, and we had some stuff in common, and like, he'd also be joking around with me, and I trusted him. I trusted him because he owed me money, and I sent the card. But this kind of trust you don't get every day. You don't. It's just sometimes it really hurt to find out that he passed away. And I just usually don't come on and talk on live streams like this, but I just felt like I needed to just say something, because it was, it's sort of important. So
I'm glad you did, especially the one piece of information that you brought that we talked about before was, would his kids appreciate this, or what's the plan for the collection? And so to know that his wife is hopeful that their kids might take it over one day, that's cool. It's encouraging. And we might now know, if anyone is familiar, like the Premier Star Patch 1/1. I mean, that's a great card. We're probably not going to. No one's probably going to see that card for several years now, and it's kind of neat to know that those are tucked away with his family. So, I'm glad you jumped on, Ryan, and you and I got to spend the weekend together in Vancouver, and we sure know that we would love to have had the opportunity to do the same thing with John too. So. Appreciate that, and look forward to seeing you at the Expo here coming up in a few weeks.
Okay.
All right. You can stick around. You can hop off. Whatever you want to do.
I'm gonna try and hop off. I got my cat.
Okay, go ahead. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, no problem. I'll try and figure out how to do this. Sorry.
I didn't even do that. I didn't do that. He did that. He did that himself. He let himself off. Okay, we're gonna get back to the giveaway, guys. Okay, here we go. I'm doing the draw right now in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. 1 in 12 chance to win the giveaway this week, and the winner is 99-cent card CA. 99-cent card CA. Congratulations. You need to please send me your email address, and I will, and then you will receive a code from Mint Inc., which is worth $50 on mintink.ca. And if you want to use it at their booth at the Expo or probably any show, you can do that as well. Please send me your email address either on Instagram, or you can email it to me at sportscardliveshow@gmail.com. All right, let's get that off the screen. Bobby Burrell makes a comment over the four decades in the hobby. The loss of many friends and mentors have left me sad, but a better man having known them. And he names some of them: Angelo Savelli, Jerry Chartrand, who I knew, Harvey Goldfarb, Michel Dubois, Ronald V. Bobby, really glad that we could have you shout those gentlemen out, mentors and friends of the hobby. Man Card says, love Ryan's storytelling abilities. Well, he told the story. He did, yeah. Thank you, Man Cards. Guys, listen, we're good to wrap this up. I think we've accomplished the mission tonight, which was to really help get the word out and capture the communities, at least this little subset of the community's thoughts and feelings about Jon Goralewski, JJ Gore Pens, and so we'll just go around the horn one more time just for some parting comments, and we'll wrap this up. If you have anything else to say, please do, even if it's just, thank you and goodbye. But we'll go around one time, guys, and then we'll be done, if that's okay with all of you. Matt, we'll start with you.
This was great. Appreciate Jeremy, as I said in the start, to putting this together. It's also been great. I chat with Mitch a decent amount on Instagram. I chat with Will a lot. Stammers, sort of an old buddy at this point. But it's just great to see, and even a lot in the comments, just the community's small, a lot of names that I recognize, a lot of Instagram handles that I recognize. So it's great to see just sort of everybody coming together. And I think this was really well done. And I hope his family gets to see it, and hopefully it has an impact on them. As we said, he has impacted us so much.
Really well said, man. I want to thank you for responding and coming on. You've been a great part of this tonight. So thank you. Mitch.
Well, I just hope that, whoever knew Jon, I hope that, the way he acted and presented himself in the hobby, we can all learn something from him and be better ourselves and strive to be more like him and make the hobby a better place for everyone. I know that, it's hard for me to even think of someone who could, have the kind of impact that he had. I hope that we can all just strive to do that. Maybe we should do an after hours to decompress after this.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it. And again, thanks for alerting some of us to Jon's passing and for being a part of this tonight. Ralphie, over to you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for getting this great crew of panel going, Jeremy and Cartel, for the idea. And great that this will be archived. So if his family does not see it, it will be captured and archived so the family can see it in the future.
Yeah, well said. Agreed. And it's truly, like, for me, it's truly like a privilege to be able to do this. And again, I wasn't close with him, so but it's still a fellow hobbyist and someone who who just was impactful, as Matt said so well, on all of us. It's a privilege to provide this forum for you guys, the people in the chat, the family eventually. Eitan Le Cartel, over to you.
I'm really glad we did this, Jeremy. I'm glad that our conversation flowed where it did, and we ended up here. I'm just so what's the term? I don't know. I'm heartened. Is that a term? About having done this, like Ralph mentioned, for the family as well, and that again, seeing the way the community reacted and the GoFundMe donations was like an amazing feeling that really allowed some light into a dark situation. And I think it puts everything into perspective for us in terms of checking in on people, valuing, like a big theme I'm working on is just valuing the things, the people in our lives that are really important and that also care about us. And there's a reciprocation of care and love and generosity, and just sweeping aside anything else, not letting it get to you, just sweeping it aside, like literally just sweeping it aside, and letting in the space for people like Jon. And it was just a privilege to know him. It was great to have spent time with him, seen him on his own and with his family in his element, in doing the thing that he loves, the thing that comforts and means so much to so many of us. And he will be missed. He will be at my table at the Expo because I'll have this on display. I really don't want to sell it just because it's part of a slowly, secretly growing Gem Mint 9091 Premier set. So I don't want to sell it, but I'm gonna display it, and I'm gonna feel like Jon is a part of it because he has been for so long. So thanks again, Jeremy, and thanks guys for showing up and the awesome words all around.
Yeah, man, great thoughts there. One thing that I take out of what you said, and I think a couple of the other guys, is be kind. When someone comes up to you at the card show or gets into your DMs or whatever it might be kind. You never know what anyone's going through health-wise or mentally, any of that. Be kind. Try not to be judgy. I think it's easy to be like that, but and I think we're all, well, I won't speak for anyone, but I know that I'm not perfect at that. And I'm going to strive to be better. And maybe that's something that I will take from this evening that is happening because of Jon's, early dying too young from cancer. Maybe I will strive to be a better person and friendlier and less judgy and kinder, and maybe I won't be alone in that, and that will be something good that comes from Jon and comes from tonight. The other thing that's going to come from tonight, inspired by Mitch, is I think I'm going to go get myself a Calgary Flames jersey with Jágr's name and numbers on it, because he played for my Calgary Flames. I saw him play live here, and as a Flames fan, we're having a great season right now. We're 4-0, and maybe we'll win again tonight against the Seattle Kraken. I don't know. We'll see in a few hours, but I learned it's hard to collect an active player from your team because they tend to leave. But Jágr might be the perfect name for my Flames jersey because he's a legend. And it ties into a fellow collector who we've lost too young. So I think I might go ahead and do that in the future here. Couple final comments that rolled in from the chat, guys. Reed says Jon will be dearly missed. Yes. Stukes, good to see you. Says nice tribute. Thank you. Laura says what a wonderful evening for our hobby and hobby family. Thanks, gentlemen, for bringing that to the forefront. Thank you, Laura. Jeremy at Foul 5 Ball says R.I.P. Rest in peace, Jon. That's nice, Jeremy. Thank you. Brett says well said, Mitch. We all have the ability and opportunity to be a positive person in this hobby. Yes, we do. And Joe Perot says, thank you guys. Heavy hitting show, and good. I'm glad it's a heavy hitting show. I think that's something that we want this to be. And Matt Barbetta from the Trainers Lounge says, remember when you said he played on one team for his whole career? He's talking about Yager. Yes, Matt, you're never going to let me forget that, are you? I do remember that, Matt. And don't make me block you again, Matt. And Jeff McMahon says, great tribute tonight. Thank you, Jeff, for that. And good to see you as always, Jeff. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you to you guys for joining. Thanks to Will. Thanks to Leighton as well for coming on. I don't think and of course, Ryan, who just popped in. Guys, that's it. I'll be back online tomorrow for the Fanatics Collect Hockey Show. I'll be back Monday for MC Monday's Showcase Live and Tuesday for the Fund Your Cards Show. And then Thursday for the PW or the Fanatics Collect Premiere. And the Expo is right around the corner, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Mint Inc. for the $50 giveaway tonight as well. And I want to also thank Fund Your Cards and Filth Bomb Breaks for sponsoring the shows. With that, you guys all hang tight right there. With that, everybody, this episode of Sports Cards Live, a tribute episode for Jon Goralewski, who we lost too young in September of 2024 to cancer on October 19th here, is now over.